Good morning. I drive the 98 Grand Cherokee 5.9, slightly modified. I still get stuck. The farther I go, the deeper I go in the mud, in the rock, and like John said, it's harder to get out. It's been known to use 41,000 pounds of winching power to get me out of a hole one time. So I've been jeeping now since I was about 16, 17 years old. So I'm 39, so therefore I get about 23 years of experience in off-roading. I had 4 Jeeps once upon a time. My wife told me I had too many of them. They were all roadworthy.
So you're divorced now?
Or racing. So I get rid of some of them, so now I get 2 Harley. So she says I get too many bikes, so I'm going back into another Jeep very shortly. Safety, safety, safety. I cannot emphasize on that, okay? And one more thing is don't go where I go. Okay? Well, John, you can come get me if you want to. Okay?
You want to drive home?
Yes, and be prepared. I always have a backup, another vehicle in sight if ever I go jeeping. So, that's it for now.
That's a very good point. Don't jeep alone.
Yeah,
I learned that the hard way.
Safety.
Hey, Matt Burnett. I'm not a Jeeper. I don't own a Jeep. I own a Ram. It's not here today because it's in pretty rough shape.
Because you own a Ram.
I wouldn't go that far. It's about 6 inches of lift, 37s. It also gets stuck a whole lot, breaks a lot of axles, comes to territory. And so Jesse.
Hey. I'm Jesse. This is my Jeep. I've been doing this for what, 2 years? After you got me hooked?
Yeah.
After you stole my Ram?
Yes. The truck was hers.
Truck was mine until I started modifying it. My big thing is safety. That's kind of my focus for everything. And again, not getting stuck. This is also my daily driver. I put it through way more than I should for being a daily driver, but fuck it, we have 2 vehicles.
Soon to be 3.
Soon to be 3.
Yeah, stupid thing put together.
Haven't done anything too major to my Jeep in terms of modifications, but yeah, I'm probably the only not highly modified Jeep that has no warranty right now.
2016 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon here, fully stock, never modified. Like Jesse, I put it through way too much, more of what I should. I beat the crap out of this thing. I love it. Can't tell me not to do it. I just do it anyways. I always try to do more than what I should be able to do in this thing. But in my mind, if
that's the exact reason why my
that,
Ram's
then
not
I
here.
wouldn't do that.
You got a Prius.
Exactly, exactly. Like Mickey and Jesse, all about the safety. I don't like some people that
I'm very sorry I didn't take the time to clean the inside of the engine, neither the outside. And by the way, this is not mud, it is actually shit. I was in the manure pit the other day. Okay, so I won't go too much in detail in there, but you should make sure that all your fluids are topped up before you go. Example, your radiator, you don't want to start to overheat in the trail, which is most likely to happen because you're working hard, pushing the mud, going up the hill, and so on, okay? You should make sure that your windshield washer is also topped up. There's nothing as bad as going through the mud pit or something like this, and the splash, then you put your wiper on, and then it's all smur, and it's nice and dry, and so on, okay? Of course, your brakes fluid, your clutch fluid, if it is. What else do you have for fluid? Power steering. Your power steering is going to be working a lot, so make sure it is at optimal level. I can't show you where they are on my Jeep, but it's irrelevant. It's your Jeep, you should know where they are, okay? Make sure your battery is secure because it'll be some bouncing. You don't want the battery to go up and start to shorten onto the hood and so on, okay? It's always good to carry some spare liquid, okay? Example, this vehicle here takes oil, okay, 1030. Yours might be 530, could be 530, 540, whatever is the number. You should always carry a liter of it. You never know, you may have a puncture into your oil tank or the plug is leaking whatsoever. You will say, well, my liter won't be enough to fill. But if everybody carry a liter of oil, then therefore you should be able to put it in. You're going to say, well, mine take 530 and you have 1030, all is oil. When you go home, do a complete oil change once you have the plug fixed in the trail. Having this up before you go into the trail, so you don't hit this and get stuck. And everything should be lubricated so it's easier to put together. Okay, there we are. Okay, spare tire, we're talking about preparedness. I carry a lot of gear for rescuing or extraction whatsoever, okay? We're gonna talk about this. Because I'm a trail guide, usually I'm in the front, so there's always a tree in my way. So I do carry a chainsaw. Hopefully it will start. Preparedness, gas and oil, okay? I always carry a bit of tools. I don't carry too many tools, but if somebody carries a bit of everything, then we are okay. Set of ratchet. You should always have a strap, recovery strap, not a toe strap, a recovery strap. This one is worn out.
The ship is a great place to steal those from, by the way. Just saying.
Bean bag that works in conjunction with this or the winch. You never know how deep you're going to get stuck. Or John or something like this. Okay. A tarp. It's always good to have if ever you broke down or if you have to check something underneath when there's slush around. Booster cable. If ever you're going to buy something, make sure you wait another week for the next payday and buy something that is good and long enough so if ever the vehicle in front of you cannot start, at least you can reach it, okay? Brand new strap. Some equipment in extraction to go around the tree. Fire extinguisher. Blanket. Some tape. If something's coming loose, you want to make sure it stays there. This is always good to have it in place before you go into the trail. If you're stuck 3 feet of mud, you cannot put it in there.
With the group on the trail, people will tell you what side to stay on the trail, to stay away from obstacles, things of that sort. So CBs are a pretty handy little thing. The most important thing with the CB radio is the antenna. The installation of the antenna makes all the difference in the world on the CB. You can have a really kick-ass CB. If you've got a crappy antenna attached to it, it's not going to work very good. So this CB in here is I think about 40 bucks and it works quite well. This CB is way more money. It works much better, but a lot of that has to do with it's attached to the 104-inch whip on the top. So the 104-inch whip gets me out about 5 kilometers. That little 4-foot antenna gets me out about, depending on the terrain, somewhere between 500 meters and a kilometer. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that CB is line of sight. So if you're on the top of the hill, you can talk, the furthest I've ever reached out is 15 kilometers to somebody else on the top of the hill and nothing in between. If you're in or on a lot of power lines and you're down in a valley near a river, you're gonna get ahead 5 or 6 vehicles and that's about it. But if you're in a group of Jeeps, that's like, you know, you're not trying to talk to Houston, you're trying to talk to a few Jeeps away and that'll work just fine. So antenna installation, it's got to be strong, it's got to be flexible, otherwise you're going to break it off in the woods. And most important thing is it's got to have a ground plane. So if we have a look at the antenna, there's the radiating part, this is base loaded. Loaded means that there's a bunch of wire wrapped around it that makes it basically work the same way as a 104-inch whip. So some of them are center loaded. The truckers like those. Base loaded is much better for going on the trail. Spring on the bottom is really good because now you can jam it into some trees and it's not going to break off. But the most important thing is that there's a plastic washer on the bottom here. That's what isolates the radiating part of the antenna from the ground part of the antenna. And the coax attaches to, the outside of the coax attaches to the frame, to the ground part, and the center part of the coax attaches to the antenna. If you short those out by bolting to this frame, you don't have an antenna. You're basically trying to use the whole Jeep as an antenna, and it doesn't work. So you need to make sure that the antenna is installed correctly, it's installed strong. The other thing that's really important is the base of the antenna needs to be somewhere around a big piece of metal to act as a ground plane. If you don't have a ground plane, the antenna doesn't work. So if you see antennas attached to the back of the Jeep where they're down on the bumper and the antenna reaches to here, what you've got is a whole bunch of metal that's in the way of the antenna. So the antenna is going to radiate pretty well backward, but it's not really going to reach forward at all. So the closer you get to 360-degree coverage, the better. And so of course what you really want to do is stick the antenna in the middle of the hood or something like that, but that's a really terrible place for antenna. So, you know, off in the corner is pretty good, but you want it poked up high enough off the hood is pretty good because the hood acts as ground plane. Ground plane's really important. The other thing you need to do is you need to tune the antenna. So that you need an SWR meter to tune the antenna. If you don't tune the antenna, what happens is a lot of the signal will either get lost in the coax, it bounces back into the coax, or the signal will come out in the garlic. And so even though you got a good radio and a good antenna, nobody will be able to hear you anyway. So if we jump back over here, we'll do a few things. Once you got these CB set up, so making a CB work, the two main controls are you got volume and squelch. Squelch gets rid of the background rattle. That's all it really does. So if you turn squelch on a well-tuned CB radio, when you turn squelch down, you don't get a lot of hiss, you don't get a lot of noise. Like this one's pretty much dead quiet. Doesn't matter if I'm all the way down or not. And so for communicating with your push the trigger, wait a moment, and then talk. It takes a moment for the transmitter to engage on most CB radios. So don't just sort of talk, push the button. Like, it's very important to talk. Yo, you guys there? And then let go of the button.
Say again?
Is that the Cookie Monster? Half words. Okay, test.
Tire up on the obstacle. That way it will raise your axle housing out of the way, give you a lot more clearance. This is an excellent example. You guys want to look at the front here? So before he had maybe this much clearance all the way across the front of the vehicle. Now he's got this much by getting his tire up on that rock, right? This is an extreme case. When he starts coming down off this rock, he will catch rock sliders, so you got to be careful about that. But just to demonstrate the whole idea of keeping your tires on the high points and keep your Jeep up and out of the way.
Really amazing how much articulation.
Yes. Yes. So articulation is huge with keeping all four wheels on the ground. So you can keep all four wheels on the ground, you get more traction on the ground and keep moving forward. I'm assuming you're disconnected right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So vehicle, yeah. See? Back to what I was saying. That is not cool. Not just for the environment's sake, but tires.
Total Bambi. Sorry guys, I won't drink any more than trail.
Totally interrupt what I was saying. Oh yeah. So most vehicles have a anti-sway bar on the front and rear of them, and that kind of limits your articulation. So when we go off-roading, we'll normally disconnect that, which makes the vehicle a lot more rolly like you'll get a lot more body roll, but it also allows you to do things like this. If his sway bar was still connected, the body of the Jeep, instead of being here, would probably be about here, right? So it would be a lot more higher risk of rolling over, and that tire might be coming off the ground and back.
So, what a spotter's job is to ensure the other vehicle on the trail when you get to a really, really difficult area, or an area that can cause trouble with the driver being able to see. As you can see, as an example here, if you were in the driver's seat right here, right now, you wouldn't know about this, you wouldn't know about anything that was beyond that point. So the job of your spotter would be to stand in front of the vehicle and to communicate with the driver where the driver can see you, a good line of sight so you communicate properly. Now, sometimes it is necessary to have a second spotter. That second spotter is usually at the back of the vehicle, and they're limited to 3 things: telling the person to stop, hold, or everything's okay. They do not guide the driver. There's one person to do that only. Because what will happen is you'll confuse the driver, and there's more likely for there to be an accident, someone could get hurt. There's some different types of hand signals. I have seemed to have gotten high centered.
Oh my goodness. How did that happen?
I don't know. I just don't have a lot of jeeping experience, and I decided that I would just try this trail.
Well, lucky for you, you've got jeeping with other people.
That's what I've been told, that's always a good idea.
There you go.
And there's a guy that stands up on the top deck with a rifle pointed down, and it's not to shoot the sharks, it's to shoot one of the people that get attacked by the sharks so the other guys can get back to the boat.
So this is only the second time I've used it.
But it's true. That's actually a true story.
Okay, so go back it out a little bit. Yeah, back it up.
She was lucky that angle. She had just the right angle. Well, she got plastic back bumper, right? She could have sustained more damage than he would. Yeah, I had to tick on my leg.
You what?
Yeah, I had to tick on my leg. After all that, well, I got dark clothes on. I look down, there's a nice bright red one.
seem to have become high-centered. Will somebody please help me? Uh-oh. She's not quite long enough.
That's what she said.
Yes, she did. That doesn't count if they're midgets.
The only problem with this is it's a big crossover, so it's gonna be trying to pull it over the ruts.
It'll probably be fine because this one you'd get a little bit of assistance for. You wouldn't just use the own power of the winch. You actually give it a.
Ideally, we want the same side. But the way that Jeeps are set up, they've got their choke point off the side, so it's in line with the frame rail, and they only give you one in the back. Those are back. Those are back. Why they do that, I don't really know, because they give you two in the front, one on either side. They don't give you two in the back. One thing, when you're hooking up the strap,
You gotta put a shock cord in the windshield. We had to do it a whole pile on a run, but I just never quite know how much to actually give it.
You can usually tell by your second pull, usually how much inertia it's going to take.
Yeah.